Hello everyone, my name is Hadley Duval and I'm honored to be here today in North Carolina as we work to elect a strong, brilliant, and unapologetic leader for reproductive freedom and our fundamental rights, Vice President Kamala Harris. At stake this election is whether we elect Kamala Harris, who will restore our reproductive freedom and protect our rights. On the other hand, if Donald Trump and J.D. Vance take power, their dangerous Project 2025 agenda would strip women of reproductive freedom in all 50 states, and that's just the beginning. So I'm not going to sit this fight out, because when Donald Trump brags about overturning Roe, it is personal. I'm from Kentucky, where because of Donald Trump, an extreme abortion ban is now in place with no exceptions for victims of rape and incest. And from the age of 5 years old, I was sexually abused by my stepfather at the time. And when I was 12, I was impregnated from being raped by him. I remember standing in my bathroom as a 12-year-old little girl, holding a pregnancy test and feeling deeply afraid. The first thing I remember hearing was, "You have options." I was too young to really understand what was happening to me, but hearing that there were options was the only thing that I could hold on to. But now, unfortunately, women and girls don't have that to hold on to. They have no options, and that is all because of Donald Trump. Now I'm 22. I'm a first-generation college graduate, and I'm living a life that I used to pray for. I'm now able to use my voice and advocate for our rights. That's what Roe used to give people in my situation, the opportunity to take your power back, a choice. Throughout this journey, I have discovered a resilience I never knew existed. I learned that empowerment is not about forgetting the trauma. It's about creating a light from the survival and the strength. To every survivor listening today, know that you are not alone. Your pain is valid, and your courage is inspiring. Together, we can transform our experiences into a powerful force for change. And this is just the start. Trump brags about overturning Roe v. Wade. He is proudly responsible for each and every abortion ban across the country, including the one in effect here in North Carolina. And he calls them a beautiful thing to watch. I'd like to ask him, what is so beautiful about telling a 12-year-old girl that she must have the baby of her stepfather who raped her? To tell a girl who has already been robbed of her childhood that she will be robbed of her future too? That's unthinkable. Yet, because of Donald Trump, this is happening in states across the country, including this one and the one where I'm from. And if you think he and J.D. Vance will stop there, you clearly have not been paying attention. We've heard of Project 2025, the extreme and dangerous blueprint for a second Trump term, detailed with plans to ban abortion in all 50 states without the help of Congress. Project 2025 even includes plans to prosecute doctors for sending or receiving medication abortion in the mail, something Vance has demanded the DOJ to do, and that is what's at stake. It took time to find my voice, and even now, it's not always easy to share my story. But it's never been more important for me to do so. That's because the stakes of this election could not be higher. For our choices, for our lives, for our futures, for women across the South who want their rights protected. When I walk into the voting booth on November 5th, I will vote for the younger me, who deserved so much better, and who deserved choices. I will vote for the girls of America who are too young to have an opinion, but old enough to suffer from the damage. I will vote for my future, and I will proudly cast my vote for Kamala Harris, and I encourage you to do the same. Now I'd like to welcome Mecklenburg County Commissioner Mark Jarrell.
Thank you so much, Hadley, and I want to just say thank you for your courage. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Jarrell. I'm the Vice Chair of the Mecklenburg County Board of Commissioners. I represent District 4. as you're aware today, Donald Trump is coming to our city to lay out his dark vision for our country, his Project 2025 agenda, which is a dangerous and extreme plan. And let me just say this, one of the most alarming parts of Trump's Project 2025 is how it would actually restructure the federal government and concentrate power in Trump's hands. It would completely dismantle key departments of the executive branch, including the Department of Education. It would remove the historic and necessary independence of the Department of Justice. It would fire civil servants and replace them with Trump loyalists. It would essentially, as Trump has said himself, let him rule as a dictator on day one. He wants to pardon, he wants to free the criminals who violently attacked the Capitol on January 6th. And he wants to use his newfound power to prosecute his political opponents. Trump's extreme conservative Supreme Court majority has already given him a near blank check to do all of these things and more. It would do irreparable damage to our democracy. And let's take a moment to talk about his vice presidential pick, J.D. Vance, who is really nothing more than a rubber stamp for this dark vision for our future. And if you don't believe me, earlier this week, Vance kicked off his first campaign event with a Republican official warning of a civil war if Donald Trump loses this November. As someone who wore the uniform, as a veteran of this country in the United States Army Reserves, I find these attacks on our democracy to be completely unacceptable. I know that I didn't put on that uniform or fight for our country so that it could be run by someone who constantly disrespects servicemen and women in everything that we stand for. And neither did the millions of other veterans who call North Carolina home. That's why it is clear to me, and I am so proud to stand with Vice President Harris this November. She is fighting to protect our democracy. She's fighting to strengthen America's position in the world. The stakes of this election couldn't be higher. Vice President Harris is the most qualified candidate in this race. She is the best positioned to defeat Donald Trump at the ballot box. The enthusiasm we've seen so far for Vice President Harris is undeniable, and North Carolina Democrats are strongly united behind her. We all know that the road to the White House runs through North Carolina, and we are ready to deliver a win for Kamala Harris this fall. And at this time, it is my honor to bring up former Charlotte City Council representative and candidate for North Carolina Commissioner of Labor, Braxton Winston.
Thank you, Commissioner Jarrell and Hadley. You know you are loved as a father of two daughters, one who turns 12 next month. That story really hits home, so thank you for sharing that. Hello, everybody. Hello, Charlotte, North Carolina. My name is Braxton Winston, and I'm proud to be the Democratic nominee for North Carolina Commissioner of Labor. But today, Donald Trump is showing up right here in the Queen City, in Charlotte, pushing lies and division in his dangerous Trump Project 2025, which would throw working families directly under the bus. Trump's Project 2025 is his agenda for a second term that would jack up the prices on everyday goods like groceries and medicines and increase taxes on North Carolina families by up to $8,300 while lowering them for the biggest corporations and the wealthiest Americans. And it would target the protections and rights that the average worker in North Carolina depends on. The intent of Trump's Project 2025 is very simple. Trump and his MAGA allies want to make life harder for workers. They want to make it even harder to unionize than it already is here in North Carolina, and make it easier for bad actors to retaliate against workers simply for advocating for themselves. Donald Trump and his MAGA cronies even want to give employers carte blanche to avoid paying workers overtime. But don't take my word for it. It says it right in the plan. Go ahead and look it up. This is just part of Donald Trump's pattern of cozying up to large corporations and billionaires at the expense of working American families. American workers and their families deserve much better. We have a choice this November, and honestly, it couldn't be much more clear. We have the power to fight for working families and to prevent Trump's harmful Project 2025. To stand up for workers and to protect our families, Vice President Kamala Harris has been President Biden's partner in the most pro-union administration in American history. She's helped create over 488,000 jobs across North Carolina alone, and wants to create economic opportunities for all Americans, not just those at the very top. She is the right person to bring unity to the party as we focus on the critical work of stopping Donald Trump and his extreme Project 2025. Look, I agree with the many labor leaders around the country who have already endorsed Vice President Harris. I am proud to support Kamala Harris. She is the right choice for America's working families. Now I would like to pass the mic to none other than Manolo Bentacore.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Wow. Oh, thank you. My daughter is 12 too. You are the bravest person in this place.
Right.
And thank you, thank you. If this doesn't move anyone, I don't know what moves you. Well, my name is Manolo Betancourt. I'm the owner of Manolo's Bakery in Central Avenue, 2 minutes away where Trump is going to be this afternoon. The center of the world and diversity and minorities is just 2 minutes away from Bojangles Arena. I began my business hoping to achieve the American dream. I am the American dream, and I used to be a Navy officer in South America, Colombia. I love the life that I have built here in Charlotte, and I provide for a small business, and I'm very proud to be a small business owner. But I'm worried if Donald Trump and J.D. Vance win this November. Everything that I have built is on risk. Because Trump Project 2025 agenda will be hurting my business, will be hurting my family, it will be hurting my community. Trump Project 2025 will be giving tax breaks to the billionaires, his friends, and massive corporations. That goes on us, the small businesses, and that's not fair. As someone who has built a business from the ground, who has great jobs, who cares about employees and my community, I don't believe that in handouts for the wealthy is among us. I don't believe that I should be paying the higher taxes than billionaires. That's not the American dream. And it will be hurting, like I say, my business. But Trump, of course, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't care about minorities. He doesn't care about people like us. He only cares about his billionaire friends. He wants to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act tax provision that stopped corporations from using tax loopholes to pay lower taxes rates than their employees. Trump's Project 2025 is too extreme for North Carolina. It sets our country down in a dangerous path where the ultra-wealthy are put about working families and our government answers to Donald Trump instead of the American people. But Vice President Harris is in our corner. She stands up for small businesses like mine. She believes to support working families, and she will give power to the middle class in the best way for, and as a president, she will do that, just as she has already done in the Congress and in the White House. This November, I'm proud to be standing with Vice President Kamala Harris. She's the leader of North Carolina and our country needs in this November. We will help her send to the White House. The time is now. Thank you. I'll get ready for my Spanish accent. It's gonna sound a little bit better. Mi nombre es Manolo Betancourt y soy el dueño de Manolo's Bakery aquí en Charlotte. Comencé mi negocio con la esperanza del sueño americano. Yo soy el sueño americano y soy oficial retirado de la Marina de Colombia. Me encanta la vida que he construido aquí en Charlotte y estoy muy orgulloso de ser dueño de un pequeño negocio. Pero me preocupa lo que Donald Trump y J.D. Vance están haciendo si ganan en noviembre. Todo esto estará en riesgo porque la agenda del proyecto 2025 de Trump perjudicará a los pequeños negocios y a las familias trabajadoras como la mía. El proyecto del 2025 de Trump daría ventajas fiscales a los millonarios y a las grandes corporaciones, y nosotros los pequeños negocios, las pequeñas empresas estaríamos sufriendo. No es justo que nosotros estemos pagando más impuestos que los multimillonarios de este país. Pero, por supuesto, yo no le importo a Donald Trump. Mi comunidad no le importa a Donald Trump. Central Avenue no le importa a Donald Trump. Solo lo que a él le preocupa son sus amigos millonarios. Ellos quieren dañar las políticas fiscales para reducir la inflación que impiden a las empresas que utilicen las tasas de impuestos para sus empleados. El proyecto de 2025 de Trump es demasiado radical para Carolina del Norte. Pone nuestro país en un peligroso camino para los ricos, por encima de familias trabajadoras, y nuestro gobierno responde a Donald Trump en el lugar del pueblo estadounidense. Pero la vicepresidenta Harris está de nuestro lado. Defiende a los pequeños negocios como el mío. Ella cree que apoyar a las familias trabajadoras y fortalecer la clase media es el mejor camino a seguir. Y como presidenta hará precisamente eso, tal como ya lo ha hecho en el Congreso y en la Casa Blanca. Este noviembre votaré por la vicepresidenta Kamala Harris. Ella es la líder que Carolina del Norte y nuestro país necesita. Y este noviembre ayudaremos a que ella gane. Ahora es el momento. Muchas gracias.
We have time for a quick Q&A. Get started. So we can go to Observer first.
So obviously those billboards went around Charlotte. What demographic of voters are you guys hoping that those billboards appeal to?
Possibly physics, yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, no worries.
You have any other questions? All right, cool. We can go to Axios.
Fine.
All right, cool. WCNC. Spectrum.
I'm Spectrum. This question is for any of you. What message would you like to give to Democrats, being that Vice President Harris is so new to this campaign world in terms of running for president?
So I've been traveling all over this state for the past 16 months, talking to North Carolina communities from the mountains to the beach and everywhere in between, communities large, small, and everything in between. What I can tell you is that everywhere I go, Democrats are organized, Democrats are energized, and Democrats are doing the work to win elections in November. That was the truth before Sunday, and that remains the truth since Sunday. I would push back on one of the premises of your question. Kamala Harris is one of the most qualified candidates for president that ever existed. She was a district attorney on the local level, attorney general of the largest state in this nation, a senator from the great state of California, and the vice president under one of the most successful and consequential presidents of our time in President Biden. So Democrats all across the state and all across this country are very familiar with Kamala Harris, and they are excited to do the work and unified in the message of putting her in the White House on November 5th.
All right, WSOC.
For anybody also, does anyone want to endorse Governor Cooper to be the vice presidential pick for Vice President Harris?
Absolutely.
100%. Absolutely.
WCCB.
Just talk about how crucial this election is for our country. It's kind of a big crossroads, so to speak, for anybody.
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to highlight here about Trump's Project 2025. Make no mistake about it. Trump's Project 2025 is his agenda starting on day one. What that will do, what that means for America's working families is terrible. What that means for the top 1%, the top 1% of the 1% will get basically whatever they want. But at the crux of that Project 2025, it will potentially irreparably harm this democracy, this great experiment in American democracy that we have been working on for for nearly 250 years. So really, the democracy is at stake on November 5th, and we are going to drive that point home about how detrimental Trump's Project 2025 will be to every American, not just Democrats, but every American.
If I can add on to that, you know, I echo everything that Braxton Winston has just said. You know, one of the things that I think is really important for us to point out are the stark differences. The other side, Republicans, have a clear agenda, and that's Trump's 2025, Project 2025 agenda. They are talking about civil war. They are talking about tax cuts for their billionaire buddies. They are trying to take away from folks that look like everybody that looks represented here. They care nothing about us. They care nothing about the people. And so today we have to stand up. Department of Education, absolutely. And so many other things. And so they care nothing about the people. And we, the people, will stand up in this election and say no more. We are going in a completely different direction. We are progressive when you have people that are regressive. So when we talk about making America great again, who are they trying to make America? Where are they trying to take us back to? We are clear where we're going, and we're clear where they're trying to take us.
One more thing. Another thing we should remember, especially here in North Carolina, that Vice President Harris will carry on the agenda and the legacy of the Biden presidency. So what that really does mean is a lot of dollars for North Carolina. We must know that the consequential laws like the CHIPS and Science Act, the Inflation Reduction Act, the bipartisan infrastructure law, those are plans that need to be implemented over years, if not decades. So we have real skin in the game to ensure that Vice President Harris is elected here in North Carolina come November 5th as we continue to build our state to make it the #1 state for both businesses and workers. Thank you.
Also, remember family separation. We have thousands of children here in Mecklenburg County that suffer through the deportation process. when Trump was in power. We cannot allow that to happen again. These children are the future of our nation. And we wouldn't have food if we wouldn't have immigrants in this country. You have been around the state. Just go to rural North Carolina. I bet you $1,000 to any of you if you can bring me, 200 farmers. We wouldn't have Christmas tree. We wouldn't have a strawberry. We wouldn't have milk on our tables. And even the hotels wouldn't be clean. And we wouldn't have small business. I always say, we, the small businesses of Mecklenburg County, are the one who pays, all the people over there in Raleigh. So it's a time of human dignity. We are fighting about, this bullying that wants to destroy the human dignity of all of us. So that's why we are here together, and that's why we are going to be winning in November.
QC News?
Yes, this is for anyone. If you can detail some of the points of Project 2025 and your concerns with them, please.
So the elimination of overtime promises quite a detrimental effect on North Carolina's workforces. We also know that any further rolling back of whatever worker protections for workers across North Carolina is going to be quite detrimental. We are one of the least unionized states in the nation, and the consequence of that is that we are one of the worst states for workers already. The data shows that our workers get paid less, our workers have less protections, and most workers lack the benefit of a collectively bargained contract. So the further erosion of those worker protections will drive us even further down and will have quite detrimental effects, not just on the conditions of workers, but the entire business community.
And so if I could just add on to that, let's go ahead and enumerate the dangers that we're facing, okay? So when you look at this Project 2025 agenda, Trump's Project 2025 agenda, bans abortion nationwide, and it punishes women who get abortion, consolidates executive power in the Oval Office, it defunds government agencies, just like you've heard earlier, raises taxes on the middle class, gives handouts to billionaires. It allows employers to stop paying workers overtime, as you've heard from our future Commissioner of Labor. And so it ends health care protections for people with pre-existing conditions. And so we can go on and on and on. It is clear the agenda is dangerous, to say the least, and we can't stand for it. And again, we're going to stand up and fight, and I do like the ticket of Harris and Cooper. Thank you.
And I have something to add. As a young person, and this is only my second election that I'll even be able to vote in, I can tell you that Project 2025 undoes a lot of the stuff I learned in the history class. It undoes so much. Why are we giving the people who have more, and not giving it to the people who already have less? I too had a mother who struggled with addiction all my life, all my childhood. And she's worked many jobs. She's been a single parent. She's worked the overtime. She's had multiple jobs. We've been on government assistance. We've used all that because of the drugs. And that's why I'm able to live the life that I'm able to now. I got a good education. I went to an amazing school. I had free lunch. I had so many amazing opportunities because I did come from less than. I came from trauma and a lot of generational curses that I didn't ask for. And, and able to break those, my elementary school all the way on to my college, everybody I met throughout that journey played a huge role in who I am today. And to know that educators are one of the most important people who make your children feel so very safe and so very heard and seen, and you want to take away from them. You want to tell them how to do their job. You want to tell doctors how to do their job. Why would we do that to people when we are trying to run the country. Not just, we do not want one person in charge. And, you know, we all deserve to have equity. We don't have to start at the same place. We deserve to be able to reach the American dream no matter where you start at. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's why we have to elect Vice President Kamala Harris, because Project 2025 will literally go backwards in all of the history books that I just recently learned, and it'll change so much. And why are we taking away things that we've already fought so hard for?
To that point, and thank you for the staff for that reminded, you know, a second Trump presidency, this is according to Trump's Project 2025, would be even more dangerous than the first, because it will purge the government of those who are not loyal to him and fill it with those who indulge in his most extreme views. And we're not talking about political appointments. We're talking about the civil service, the professionals that provide the essential services of government. Those positions should not be political. They should be governed by the force of the job. That is a dangerous position to throw a democracy or any country in. There are numerous examples of why that is bad throughout history and throughout the world.
Great. Anyone have any more questions? All right, terrific. Thank you, everybody. Grab a picture real quick.
Sorry.